No opening video. No celebration. This is the first show of the new year. Happy New Year to everybody. But we're going to use today as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers postmortem, because there is a lot to get into. We are not going to talk Lightning, USF, Rowdies, Rays, nothing. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers postmortem. I hope everybody had a good holiday, but we got to get into this right away. All Bucks, all day today. Locker room is open right now over at one Buccaneer place, and everybody's cleaning out their lockers. Couldn't care less about what they have to say, because what their actions showed us this year was that this team was not ready. Not ready at all to win. An utter embarrassment on how this season ended. And I don't blame any Buccaneer fan out there if you are hesitant to be excited about the 2026 season if changes are not made. And I'm talking everywhere, up and down the organization. Not good. Not good enough at all. A big thank you to everybody that's tuning in today. We'll get to you guys a little bit later on, but we're going to talk all Bucks. Ian Beckles joins us at 12:30 today, as he does every Monday here on the program. We will be live from Benchmark International Arena tomorrow. Huge game for the Lightning against the Colorado Avalanche, arguably the two best teams in hockey. But we're not talking hockey today. We're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that dreadful performance in the 2025 season. Shout out to our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, Evra Health. We'll have the Evra Health injury report on Thursday. Big shout out to my guy Hammer and his lovely wife. Saw them at the game. They picked up their Mike Evans bobblehead. I was very bullish going into the season about my happiness about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought they just incrementally they would get better on defense. And if you had some semblance of consistency on offense, this team would be a whole hell of a lot better. That's not what we saw. Not at all. Now, make sure you guys follow me on all social media platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, at Jay Recher. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Today is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers postmortem. And there is a lot to get into. And one thing that we're going to do here in 2026 is we are not going to shy away from having some of the tough conversations. Too many people are so worried about what somebody is going to say and what the ramifications are. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It's not going to be like that here on this show. It hasn't been, and it will not continue to be. When I look at this team, there is a lot that needs to change. A lot. It is unacceptable the way that this season went down. It's one thing when you're not good. It's one thing when you have a bunch of injuries. It's one thing when guys don't play well, you don't coach well. But that was an embarrassing effort from a team that had lofty aspirations. We're talking about lengthy playoff runs. We're talking about if they don't make it to the NFC Championship game, that this season is a letdown. This team didn't even have a winning record. This team didn't even make it to the playoffs. In the worst division in football, they finished 8-9, and now they're cleaning out their lockers today. This isn't the same team that won the Super Bowl. We got to get over that shit. The Tampa Bay Lightning have done a really good job of finally putting that chapter behind them and going, all right, we got to move forward. We got to have a different club, a different identity going forward. That's what they're doing. That's why they're having success. That's where they're the number one team in the Eastern Conference. The Buccaneers are living in the past. It needs to change. And as of right now, there are no wholesale changes from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will be heading over to the Avon Training Center at One Buccaneer Place at 3:30 today for Todd Bowles' press conference. You're not going to have a press conference if you get fired that day. Doesn't mean he's not going to not going to get fired in the next couple of days. But as of right now, Todd Bowles is still the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I want you guys to stay with me because I got a lot to get into. A lot. I have almost 5,000 words of notes. I actually went to Grammarly.com to make sure. I all day yesterday, all day, as I'm watching all of these different games, as my dumbass got up at 7:30 in the morning to watch Manchester United draw once again, and they fired their manager today. They sacked Ruben Amorim. So on the other side of the pond, the Glazers made a move. What happens over here? Now, the Glazers don't have their hands nearly in – they don't have as much to do with Manchester United now as they once did. Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and all the people over there, they're really concerned themselves with what goes on the soccer side over there. So I don't know if any of – that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on over here. But I flew back, and I went to the game on Saturday. And once again, for all the people that cover sports and they think that it's not a big deal when you don't go to these games and you think you can cover it from your couch and know exactly what the hell is going on, I'm telling you right now, those people don't know what the hell they're talking about. Sure, there's other things that you can glean from the television. We have the analysts, we have the replays, there's TVs in the press box at Raymond James Stadium as well. But before the game and after the game, that type of feel, what is going on there, you cannot duplicate that. You can't replicate that. You can't get the feeling of what it's like at Raymond James Stadium unless you are there. What a difference a year makes. Last year, standing in that tunnel at Raymond James Stadium at the conclusion of the Buccaneers Week 18 matchup with the Saints, you could feel the rumble in the energy as the team beat New Orleans, secured yet another NFC South title, and in the process made history as Mike Evans caught a pass on the final drive to once again eclipse 1,000 yards. This year, completely different. The game had like a lame duck type of feel. It was like being in a relationship that was on its last legs. You both know it's over. The lease of the apartment is up at the end of February, but it's Valentine's Day, and you don't want to just sit at home. So you decide to go to Applebee's and get quesadilla burgers instead of a nice romantic celebration at Burn Steakhouse. It was such an awkward environment. The lone bright spot wasn't the win over the soon-to-be NFC champion Carolina Panthers. It was all the love and adoration for Lavonte David. And he led the team with 6 tackles, and in classic Lavonte David fashion, he recovered a fumble as well. As 5-4 deflected questions about his retirement status and, for some reason, his impending Ring of Honor induction, the post-game press conference felt like we were chatting with a team that was 4-13 and not a team who was 8-9 and needing help. How ironic. I know I wasn't the only one that felt this. How ironic that we're depending on Tyler Shuck, Cam Jordan, Chase Young, and the Saints in order for the Buccaneers to be postseason bound. That feeling of yuck lasted less than 24 hours, and Tampa Bay has nobody to blame but themselves. They put themselves in this position, a position where today they're cleaning out their freaking lockers over at $1 instead of getting ready for a playoff game this weekend. Knocked off their perch by Dave Canales, Bryce Young, and the stinking Carolina Panthers. Can you believe that? Wow. So the real question is, who's to blame? And I've been saying this for weeks now. It's not just Todd Bowles. Is he part of the problem? Absolutely. Is he the biggest problem? More than likely. But to just put this on Todd Bowles is merely scratching the surface of what is truly wrong with this team. I'm not going to start with the Glazers. Ultimately, I know the buck stops with them. They'll decide whether Bowles is the right guy. We're talking about this team right here and what happened this year. And I'm going to start with Jason Licht. And you're not going to hear this anywhere else, but this is the quote that you're going to hear on the Jay Recher Podcast and nowhere else. A longtime Tampa Bay media member said to me earlier this year, people in this town are afraid to go after Jason Licht? Well, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because there is just as much blood on Light's hands than anybody. I'm not afraid to bring that to light. Again, this isn't personal. This is business. You can be upset with how Todd Bowles and his defensive coaching staff have failed to develop the linebackers and the pass rushers. But has Jason Licht really done a good job fortifying these spots? Has he? Joe Tryon-Shoyinka ring a bell? Did anybody see Chris Braswell on Saturday? Anybody? He had 1 sack this year. 1. And he only hit the quarterback once in the last 5 games. Second round pick out of Alabama. Awful. He might be a bigger bust than JTS. To be fair, that's only 1.5 sacks less than Hassan Reddick had this season. Dude was stealing money from Tampa Bay. David Walker didn't play it down. Everyone kept saying how great Yaya Diaby was going to be this year. He only had 7 sacks. More on him later. I got a bone to pick with him. And everyone loved the Emeka Egbuka pick early in the season. But looking back at it now, was it really the right move? Shouldn't they have addressed the defense in the first round? Hell, that's what the Falcons did. Atlanta went from 31 sacks last year, second worst in the league, to 57 this season, second best. The Bucs went from 46 to 37. Wrong direction. Atlanta rookie James Pierce Jr. finished with 8.5 sacks, but I was told that Jason Licht didn't have him on his draft board because of character concerns. Of course, we would love every player to be that man, like a Levante David. But is that really realistic? This is a violent game with so many variables, and teams are filled with all kinds of crazy characters. Give me a Warren Sapp skipping through the other team's huddle, or an Antonio Brown who may leave you shirtless in New Jersey, but he can also give you a touchdown in the Super Bowl too. You cannot build a team with choir boys. This team was too soft and didn't have enough dogs. They didn't have enough juice, enough energy, and that's not even my words. Remember outside linebacker coach Larry Foote? That's what he said. That's why they brought in Jason Pierre-Paul. What does that say about the construction of your team? In the inside linebacker position, we were told before the season that it was the deepest position on the team. You could have drafted Carson Schwessinger, who's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year with Cleveland. Nope. The Bucs went with a wide receiver, the actual deepest position group on the team. But no, Jason Licht went with Anthony Walker, didn't even make the team out of camp, Levante David, and Servassier Dennis, who everyone was dead wrong about, telling us Dennis was this incredible backer in coverage, blew up in Tampa Bay's face time and time and time and time again. How many times did we see a running back blow by number 8 this season? Bijan, Gibbs, Saquon, take your pick. Could have drafted Jahad Campbell, who was all over James Cook in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago and has shown signs of brilliance with the Eagles. Didn't happen. And do we want to talk about the selection of Benjamin Morrison, or should we skip that part too? Came in injured, missed time injured, and when he was healthy, dude was targeted more than a freaking dartboard. I get it. A lot of this is on Bowles and the coaching staff. I understand. But Jason Licht needs to wear some of this too. This doesn't take away what he did in 2020. But putting together that team shouldn't preclude him from his fair share of criticism for this one. And for all the talk of hoarding those draft picks and how valuable they are, let's not forget that that team had Brady and Gronk and Fournette and Sue and JPP and AB. None of them drafted here in the Bay. Your roster has to have balance. You need to build through the draft and through free agency and maybe sprinkle in a couple trades too. Offensively, not having a viable replacement for Robert Hainsey leaving in free agency was a void felt the entire season. And it's crazy that not a lot of people have talked about this. Not enough attention, surprisingly, was put into the offensive line. A well-known favorite position group with Jason Licht. The fact that your starting center, Graham Barton, had to play left tackle when you knew for months that Tristan Wirfs was going to be out was criminal mismanagement. The trickle-down effect was felt all year long as Barton only recently got up to speed at center midway through the season, and the play of any of the guards who came in after Cody Mauch and Ben Bredesen went down was well below average. Now, just because we like Jason and appreciate what he's done in bringing Bruce Arians and Tom Brady and a second Super Bowl to Tampa Bay doesn't mean he doesn't need to look in the mirror and notice that he's part of the problem here. It's 2026 now. That championship was almost 5 years ago now. Time to reassess, time to reload, and time to find a new identity for this freaking team. Give me a second. I got to send this to the Big Beck. Ian's going to join us on the program today. Really excited to have him join us at 12:30. Nobody talks about the light stuff. Everybody's scared to talk about it. And they're scared to talk about Baker too. And if you guys want to talk about some of the other issues, just wait. I'm not done. That was just Jason Licht. And you best believe I got something for Josh Gazard. Best believe I got something about Todd Bowles too. All right. Next up, I'm looking at Baker Mayfield. We love the swagger. We love the moxie. We love the toughness. But is he ever going to be the guy to lead this team to a Super Bowl? I said a couple years ago that I didn't believe that he could do that. And today, my opinion stays the same. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it. The best plays Baker seems to make are with his legs and not his arm. That worries me. You saw it in Week 18 against the Panthers. Some great escapes and scrambles for the first down, but the interception of Rosenboom hit him right between the numbers. And people are going to say, and I just had somebody say it on Twitter, well, Baker isn't 100%. Let me ask you a question. What quarterback is 100% at this time of the season? Which one? None of them. You can't have a guy that plays like an MVP in the beginning of the season and then look absolutely lost down the stretch. Is that fair? I don't care. It is what it is. People are so scared in this city to critique Baker at all because of how great of a person he is, because of how hard he plays, and because how easily he's assimilated himself to our community. But again, just like with Jason Licht, this isn't personal. It's about business. Jimmy Johnson once said that the two most important attributes a quarterback can have is accuracy and decision-making. Honestly, even if you are the most ardent defender of Baker Mayfield, would you say that those two attributes are his strengths? I wouldn't. And I think the whole MVP discussion really distorts people from reality that Baker is better when his team is balanced. Now, nobody else is talking about this. No one. People were getting up in arms the last couple of weeks when Josh Gazard was trying to run the ball 30 times. But let's not forget. People are soon to forget. In years past, the Bucs were 5-1 in 2023 with Dave Canales and 7-1 in 2024 with Liam Cohen when they ran the ball 30 times or more. Just because they were 3-3 this year with Josh Gazard doesn't mean that that wasn't the recipe for success. And for all the Baker love out there, the more he throws the ball, the less success he has. Nobody's looked into these numbers. Be ready for these because you're not going to hear it anybody else. Because everybody out there is too worried about offending somebody or kissing Baker's ass. This is the reality of the situation. Baker Mayfield is only 5-12 with the Buccaneers when he throws the ball more than 35 times. When he throws the ball more than 40 times, he's 1-11. In Cleveland, 5-18 when he threw the ball 35 or more times. 1-9 when he threw it 40 or more. In Carolina, He was 0-2 when he threw at 35 or more. And the one time he did it with the Rams, yeah, he did. He won that game. That dramatic victory over the Raiders, just a couple of days' notice. So in his entire career, 8 seasons, he has 11 wins when he throws the ball 35 or more times, and only 2 when he throws it 40 or more. Baker is better when the offense is balanced, when he spreads the ball around, and when he drops in an occasional scramble for a first down. People need to adjust their expectations of Mayfield going into 2026. And it worries me that for a guy that plays as hard as he does, is not afraid to drop his head, drop his shoulder, and barrel into a defender. And as much as we love that, it does not bode well for a guy whose play drops off when he's not 100%. You could argue that his play dropped off more than any quarterback in the league this year. So spare me he's not 100%. The way he plays the game, he's never going to be 100% at the end of the year. So is that the guy you want to ride with going into the end of the season, going into the postseason? I think it's fair to have those kind of concerns. Josh Gazard, my guy. This was one of the biggest swings and misses from the Bucs this year. The only team with a bigger drop-off in points per game was Washington, and their starting quarterback, Jaden Daniels, played in less than half of the games this year due to injury. This Yale grad was in way over his head and was much more Dave Canales than Liam Cohen, even though he spent last year in those meetings with the now Jaguars leading man. That continuity was supposed to help. It didn't at all. One of the things that Liam Cohen actually said before the season last year was how tough it is to balance having 3 running backs, and we saw that this year. Some of it had to do with Bucky being a little banged up, but even when he was healthy, there was no rhyme or reason with how these backs were deployed. Ride the hot hand is what we kept hearing. Really? Bucky was touted as RB1. And then he has some issues handling his injury. And then when somebody did look sharp, like Rashad at the end of the season, he was still getting out touched by Bucky. And then, well, what's going on? And then the passing game, woof. How in the blue hell did it get progressively worse when everyone got healthy? In the last 4 weeks, when those 4, Evans, Godwin, McMillan, and Abuka were on the field together, they accounted for only 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns in 4 weeks for those 4 receivers. 1 a game. And the Bucs went 1-3. They didn't score 30 points in any of those games. Matter of fact, the Bucs offense didn't score more than 30 in the last 7 games of the season and did it only 3 times the entire year. Seattle, San Fran, and Buffalo, ironically enough, 3 playoff teams. The offense looked stale and predictable and at times just downright sad. Remember the game in New Orleans when they attempted to rush it in from the goal line like 487 times? Where was the creativity that came from Josh Gazard, spending all that time with Liam Cohen and then his time with Mike McDaniel down in Miami? It was nowhere to be found. As dull as an old kitchen knife. This is one of the moves that Bowles has to make if he gets lucky enough to keep his job. In a league where innovative offenses are a must, the Buccaneers need to pivot and get a fresh look on that side of the ball heading into 2026. I don't think there's any debate there. And now we land on Todd Bowles. Then we'll go from Todd Bowles right into Ian when he joins us. And appreciate everybody here on the program. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Please hit that like button as much as you can hit that like button. Man, a ton of people watching today. Thank you so much. And Todd Bowles. And I think it's unique for me here because you guys know, well, as most of you know, I was probably the loudest supporter of Todd Bowles at this point last year. And I don't regret that one bit. But just under a year later, with new information to take in, my stance has significantly changed. I find it very hard to believe that any Buccaneers fan would be excited for a 4th year of Bowles at the helm. Especially with how much this team and particularly his defense has regressed. Whether you want to assign blame to any other member of the Bucs organization, the buck, pun intended, stops with the head coach. If Bowles was lauded for his choices of Canales and Cohen as offensive coordinators, then he has to swallow the ugly pill that was Josh Gazard. The fact that Todd Bowles stuck with special teams coach Thomas McGahee all year long is about as flagrant of a decision that we've ever seen from a Buccaneers head coach. I know Todd's a loyal guy. I get it. But your loyalty needs to be to the entire team and not just one coach. Coverage issues, block kicks, missed assignments. The special teams unit checked off all the boxes of futility this season. I often say that if a coach's team doesn't reflect the expected strength of said coach, he won't be employed for very long. And that's exactly what we've gotten from this defense under Todd Bowles. Some call him a defensive mastermind, a genius even, but the lack of development, widespread regression, and blown coverage falls directly on the guy calling the shots. It's your job as a coach to put your players in a position to succeed. If something's not working, you have to change it up so they can either understand better or execute it more efficiently. If you don't, you get what you got this season. What's the definition of insanity again? And for all the talk about injuries, which every team has, listen to this. Every starter on the defense played at least 13 games this year, with the exception of Kalijah Kancey. Your leaders on this defense, Lavonte David, Vita Vea, Antoine Mayfield Jr., and Yaya Diaby, played all 17 games. Did those guys just all get worse? Something was missing with this team this year. And when you have to bring in Jason Pierre-Paul off the couch for some juice and some energy, that means the players didn't get it done. So do you put that on the players or the guy who put those guys in those positions? 3 of those 4 leaders are Super Bowl champions. You're not going to get rid of them. You can't fire the whole team, right? Outside of maybe Jacob Parrish, we also didn't see and haven't seen the last couple of years young guys stepping up and making the most of their opportunities. There's never young guys nipping at the heels of the veterans and pushing for more playing time. There's no Dominic James and Charles Edouard Destu like we see with the Lightning, or we saw with Chandler Simpson and Jake Mangum for the Rays last year. It's always an excuse. It's always something. People are sick and tired of the same old BS with Todd, and I can't blame him anymore. I don't care about the disposition on the sidelines. Hell, he went on a profanity-laced tirade after the Falcons lost, and then the Bucs lost to Carolina and Miami the following 2 weeks. Doesn't make sense. Todd Bowles is one of the most respected men in the National Football League. That is without question. But this is a results-oriented business. Sure, you can blame other aspects of why this team is failing, but he is the head coach. And this team has had more ups and downs than a roller coaster at Busch Gardens. Some will say, well, he could stay, but he's got to fire some of his coaches. They were his coaches, his guys. And now we're realizing that those guys aren't it. Why would anyone have faith that the news guys would be any better? If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And I truly believe that this team under Todd Bowles is heading in the wrong direction. Hell of a guy, but his time in Tampa Bay should be up. Fresh blood and a new outlook is needed. The Tom Brady, Bruce Arians days are over. It is now imperative for the Buccaneers to turn the page and start a new chapter of football in Tampa Bay. Enough is enough. Ian always asks this question: would you bet your house on it? Would you bet your house that Todd Bowles is the right guy to lead this team to the Super Bowl? Even if you are in that camp of give him another year. He dealt with a bunch of, and I hate being that guy. I hate it. And Ian and I were 2 of the loudest voices in Tampa Bay saying, relax, man. Don't be so quick to move on to a guy like Liam Cohen. But we have new evidence. We have new information this year. It's not good enough, man. Not good enough. Everybody's to blame. It's not just on Todd, but when you are the main man, you got to wear it, buddy. You have to wear it, and ultimately you have to pay for it. Let's bring him in for the first time in 2026. Canadian Bacon, Ian Beckles. What's going on, brother? Good to see you.
Been a while, brother. You good?
Yeah, man. My family sends their love, send happy holidays. We got a bunch of Indiana Hoosier fans at the house now, buddy.
That's what I'm talking about. You got a tan over there in New York.
A little bit. I was inside, man. It was snowing up there.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, it was.
You saw my stuff. It was crazy over there. Just a finish when it comes to our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we'll get to Bowles in a second. Did you hear what I was saying about Baker Mayfield?
I didn't hear the Baker Mayfield part.
Okay, because a lot of people the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to bring this up with you because you have always, you gave this information to me.
Right.
You have always told me that it's not about the rushing yards, Jay. It's about the rushing attempts. And in the last couple of weeks, people were getting on Josh Gazard. Why are you trying to rush the ball 30 times? Why are you trying to rush the ball 30 times? Okay. The Bucs were 5-1 in 2023 when they rushed the ball 30 times. They were 7-1 last year when they ran the ball 30 times. Yes, only 3-3 this year. But here's my issue. Baker is 5-12 with the Bucs when he's thrown the ball more than 35 times. Mm-hmm. He's 1-11 when he's thrown the ball 40 or more times. He was 5-18 with 35 or more attempts with Cleveland and 1-9 with 40 or more there with the Browns. So in his 8-year career, this guy has only won 11 games when he's had to throw the ball 35 or more times and 2 when throwing it 40 or more. So I think for all the talk about Todd Bowles, and we're going to get to that in a second, I think understanding what type of quarterback this team is another topic of conversation and something that the Bucs have to go, focus on going forward.
Yeah, what's tough is, those statistics that you spat out, and I get it, they're probably pretty similar with every quarterback. Okay.
And that's what I looked up too. That's what I looked up. So I looked at some of the other quarterbacks in the league, and I think the best guy to make a comparison to is Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff is a similar type guy. Goff has won 1 or 2 more games per season.
Sure.
With those stats. Still, they're under 500. It's not great. You want to stay balanced. But I was like, is this just an outlier but you look at other quarterbacks around the league, Beck, they're a lot closer to 500. None of them are that bad.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah. Listen, in order to be a quarterback or an organization that does throw the ball a little bit and run the ball, there's a lot of things that have to happen. Now, I want you to listen to the back part of this, and you tell me if we're equipped. Okay, I agree with everything you just said. But if you want to be that team that runs the football effectively, you have to have a good defense, okay? Mm-hmm. We don't have it, okay? We got to be opportunistic defensively. We are not that. And here's another one that's very, very important. Special teams. We are terrible in special teams.
Awful.
So we started off the game running the ball, got a couple first downs. I'm like, okay, we look like it's an attitude. I don't remember the last time I saw the Bucs really have an attitude running the ball. Because I know what attitude is. And fans, you drive me nuts too. Okay? Because here's what running teams do. They run the ball. And when somebody runs the ball on first down and gets 6 yards, you're happy. And when they run the ball on first down and get 1 yard, you're not happy. Shut your mouth. Okay? Because like you said, Jay, it's about continually to run the ball, wearing these dudes out, and at the end of the game, these guys are worn out, and they've been a long day of trying to stop the run. So don't complain when they don't run it and get 4 or 5 yards, okay? That's what running teams do. But I've never really seen the Buccaneers really have that mentality. And a lot of the coordinators say they have it, but I've still not seen it.
You also have to run the football when the other team knows you're going to run it, right? That game in New Orleans against the Saints when they ran the ball freaking 9 times at the goal line and couldn't get it in against a team that really wasn't playing for much. It's everything. And I think that's the big thing is it's not just Baker. It's not just Gazard. It's not just Todd Bowles. It's not just Jason Licht. Everybody has blood on their hands here. Every single person in the organization. And I look at this team and I think Jason Licht needs to wear a lot of this too. Because let me ask you this, Beck. Why in the blue hell did your second-year center start the season playing left tackle? Think about that.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you how good of a job he did, because I think he held up decently, right? Yeah. But you knew, and I went back, I did back all day yesterday. I wrote over 5,000 words about the Buccaneers. I was lit up. I'm gonna send you my notes so you could have them for. Did you record In the Trenches yet?
I just did, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want you to have it because we're going to talk about it Wednesday as well. But I want you to see some of the numbers that I came up with. Bro, how you knew for months that Tristan Wirfs was not going to be ready for week 1, and your answer was to go with Graham Barton, and you wonder why he hasn't developed in his second year? Mm-hmm. Jason Licht, for a guy that brags how much he loves the offensive line, and I know some of it's on the players, but you didn't replace Robert Hainsey. You had a bunch of backup guards that were just god awful. I mean, this offensive line, we just talk about running the football. If you're not consistent there, you're not going to do anything.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not going to blame this year and the offensive line play on Jason Licht. I can't do it because nobody has a backup left tackle. They just don't, okay? We had to deal with a backup left tackle, a backup right tackle, a backup right guard, and then we had a backup center because our center's playing left tackle. When you really think about that for a second, one game we had, I don't know if we had any offensive linemen in the right positions.
Right.
Okay? I don't know if we had anybody, okay? I can't blame Jason Licht for that one because if any, and people were talking about we should have signed Liam Cohen and blah blah. You think Liam Cohen's offense would be good with 5 backup linemen? Nobody's offense is good with 5 backup linemen, and it all falls on Jason Licht and Todd Bowles, anyways. Okay, right. Because that's the way I hear people today. I'm not blaming Todd Bowles. Yeah, you are, because he's the coach. Yeah. And when he wins, you got to give him the credit. And when he fails, you got to give him the blame. So we're at a point now where, as a Buccaneer fan, and I'm a Buccaneer fan, I watch every snap of every single game. I love my Buccaneers. I want to watch my Buccaneers and be entertained, and I want to watch my Buccaneers and think that we have a chance, and I wasn't at the end of the year. I was watching my Buccaneers, and like the narrative, and I didn't like the narrative in the buildings at the end of the year when I'm watching my Buccaneers because it flips. You know, there's times, years, Jay, we're watching the Bucs and we're like, pfft. And other times we're watching the Bucs, we're like, damn, look at these son of bitches. And it just wasn't this year, unfortunately.
All right, let's get into this whole Todd Bowles situation because, again, you and I were two of the loudest voices here in Tampa Bay going, relax, people, relax. You don't know what you're going to get with Liam Cohen. And with that being said, there's no guarantee, and I want people to listen to this now. There's no guarantee that if Liam Cohen was the head coach of the Buccaneers this year, that this team would have any type of success. There's no guarantee. It's a different situation there in Jacksonville, completely. But with that being said, Todd Bowles is the guy, and he needs to wear it. Just like you said with Jason Licht, he needs to wear this. And if you're a defensive head coach and your defense is that bad, I mean, it's going to be tough for the Buccaneer organization to sell to the fans going into 2026 that he is the right guy going forward.
You know what's crazy about this whole thing, Jay? And I agree with what you just said, but what's crazy about this whole thing, if at the beginning of the year, we would have sat down, and I'm going to say, Jay, this is what's going to happen. What do you think the record was going to be? I promise you don't say 8-9. I promise you.
Yeah, probably less, yeah.
I would say 5-11. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then we have to add that Baker was banged up at the end of the season and blase. So when you really think about it, Todd Bowles didn't do a bad job this year, okay? But that being said, sometimes it's just time for change, okay? Sometimes people have heard the same message 4 or 5 years, and people start rolling their eyes, and people start getting comfortable, as they did with Tony Dungy as well. Mm-hmm. And let me say this. If Todd Bowles gets fired today, it's not, and I want everybody to listen to this part of it, it's not because he's not a good coach. It's just time for him to go. Same with Tony Dungy. And every coach that comes in here, if they fail, a lot of times it's on you, but a lot of times it's a circumstance. Like you go back, you watch, Raise the Flags, and you look at Schiano. Schiano might have been a good coach, but his circumstances weren't great. Like you had a little snotty-nosed quarterback that was doing his own thing. That's not conducive to winning. So at the end of this, I want everybody to understand that Todd Bowles was a good coach, period.
Well, a good coach or a good head coach?
Coach.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the difference. Because Tony Dungy, when he left, people weren't surprised that Tony Dungy went to the Indianapolis Colts and won the Super Bowl. Because they had good teams here. I mean, the offense obviously couldn't get them over the hump. But I don't know if Todd Bowles is going to go somewhere else and take a team to the promised land. And I find it hard to believe, man. I find it hard to believe that, a guy like that who prides himself on defense. Like, people say, oh, the players. Beck, you heard me. Vita, Antoine Winfield Jr., Levante David, and Yaya Diaby. Your 4 leaders played all 17 games. So the fact that those guys couldn't do enough, the fact that you had to bring JPP in, and you and I spoke about this more than anybody here in Tampa, the fact that they brought in JPP was damning for everybody in the organization. Everybody. You're telling me a team with this many leaders and Super Bowl champions doesn't have juice, doesn't have energy? You either have the wrong players, you have the wrong coaches, you have the wrong formula. Something's wrong, but that is not great. Because did you see JPP make a play the last couple of weeks? No. I didn't. I was in the locker room. I didn't even see the freaking guy. There's just, regardless if you think Bowles should stay or not, there is something that is fundamentally wrong with this defense that something's got to give.
I'll go deeper than that, Jay. I think it's not just the defense. I would say if I said to you, and you can pick anybody on the team, coaching, ball boy, it doesn't matter. Who played over and above? Nobody. Not one person played over and above on the whole Buccaneers squad. That's hard. At least sometimes somebody goes, even like a Cody Malk, his rookie year, played 16 games. I would say that's playing over and above. But we didn't even have that. Like, our best players were hurt or missed time or didn't play as well. Or like Levante David is still our leader, but it's not enough plays.
He's not enough, and he knows that. He's not the same. He knows that.
No, Vita Vea is a leader. It's not enough plays. Antoine Winfield Jr. did not make enough plays this year. Those are our defensive leaders. Like, when you talk about Super Bowl teams and teams competing, when you talk about defensive guys with season under test, we're talking about like Warner for San Francisco. Like, when you put the film on, you are going to say their name. We didn't have a player on defense, especially, that you had to say their name. Nobody. If you would have said defense led by, who are you going to say?
Nobody.
Nobody.
None.
Nobody. Like, you couldn't even pencil a name in. That defense is not led by nobody, and that's never good. I can tell you, I'll name any defense in the NFL that's good, and I promise you give me 2 names that's led by. I promise you.
What does that happen? So how does that? I guess the question is, Beck, is like, you can't fire all the players, right? No. Like, you can't get rid of all the defensive players. And I just find it hard to believe that all those guys aren't good anymore. Like, Antoine Winfield Jr. made the Pro Bowl, but you and I have spoken about this in the past. That's more of a popularity contest than anything else. That's because they know the name, because he didn't play all that great this year. But so what is it then? Like, is it the coach? Is it the players? Like, how could the defense be this freaking bad this season when you had the majority of your best players, guys that have a pedigree, guys that have a good resume, guys that have Super Bowl rings, and are still outside of Levante David in their prime? How could a defense with a defensive-minded head coach be that bad? Is it the players? Is it the coach? I think it's everybody.
Well, I don't think it's rocket science, Jay. I really don't, because take us to when we're good, and I'll take you to a way better pass rush. Linebackers that cover way better. Defensive backs that are close to their defenders. Like, guys are running scot-free. Like, I don't know if it's broken coverage. We don't have the right guys. I don't know what it is, but we just weren't a good defense. I don't know. Like, some of it has to be coaching, but I always tell people, if you think you're good, compare yourself to the Buccaneers Super Bowl team. Some of these guys wouldn't even, would get cut, okay? If you talk about the Buccaneers Super Bowl teams. Those guys were great everywhere. We weren't good anywhere this year. And the unfortunate part for the Buccaneers is they were fugazi at the beginning of the year, okay? And they figured out ways to bamboozle a couple wins when they weren't good this year. Okay, there's 3 wins where they got outplayed, and Baker was a magician and got it done. But as a whole, this Buccaneer team was as inconsistent as any football team in all the NFL, because there's teams that were bad, there's teams that were good, but we did a lot of both, unfortunately.
The Bucs scored 30 points 3 times this year in 17 games. They were 2-1 in those games. Do you know who they played? Seattle, San Francisco, and Buffalo.
Whoa.
3 playoff teams, and they beat 2 of the 3. Right? Isn't that crazy?
And they had 27 sacks. 27. Yikes.
So, and here's the other thing, too. When you look at this defense compared to, like, let's say the Atlanta Falcons, the Falcons last year were second worst in the league with 31. They had 57 this year, 26 more.
Yep.
The Buccaneers had 46 last year, and I think they went down. I think they had 37 this year. But still, not good. Not good at all. And Atlanta, James Pierce Jr., the rookie, from what I heard, Jason Licht took him off the board because he had character concerns.
Boy.
And I know Jason Light's been talking about, like, we're focusing on the right men and the right leaders and all this and blah, blah, blah. Anybody want to give back Antonio Brown? Anybody want to tell me about character concerns about Warren Sapp when he came out of college?
Right.
You're talking about a guy that was arguably the best player coming out of that draft. Why didn't he go number 1 overall? Because there was concerns about him coming out of Miami. So I understand Jason Licht wants to have all of these guys that are leaders and blah, 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 blah. But Beck, if you're telling me that those are the kind of guys you want, and then in the season you're bringing in a guy like JPP who blew off 2 of his fingers in a fireworks accident, right? I mean, doesn't this team need a little more gutter? Doesn't this team need a little bit more dog? Doesn't this team need to understand that you can't win with a bunch of choir boys? Give me Sapp skipping through the goddamn stretching line. Like, there needs to be a little bit more. And you said this to me multiple times about Tristan Wirfs. Jay, the biggest thing I want to see from him is to get a little bit more nasty. And Ryan Jensen brought it. You asked me the question, who got better this year? Who stood out? I ask you, which Bucs player was nasty this year?
Yikes.
The fact that you can't answer it in the first 5 seconds tells you all that we need to know. How can you win that way, Beck?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be a great defense without bringing a little nasty. And listen, 27 sacks in the season. We just watched Myles Garrett get 23. and if you gave me Myles Garrett, I'll give you the rest of the defense. I'll give you all the rest of our guys if you just give me Myles Garrett, okay? And it's just when I'm watching our team, I'm waiting for, like, once again, if you go back to the Super Bowl teams, and everybody's going to go, we're not a Super Bowl team. I get it. But that's what I have to compare things to, okay?
Yeah.
We were great everywhere. We really were, okay? We were even good backing up, okay? Because those backups didn't have to play a whole lot. Maybe if they had to play the whole game, it would be different. But this football team, it all made sense. And those football teams made sense. I'm not sure this football team makes sense, okay? When it's all put together, and I know it's easy to say at the end of the year because we lost, but it just seems put together, okay? Because it's almost like the land of misfit toys on offense. We got a last year wide receiver, a foot backwards wide receiver, a rookie wide receiver,
a broken neck wide receiver,
a broken neck wide receiver, a tight end who you might as well put a 70 jersey on other than 2 games a year. It's like, who are we fooling on?
He does a great job in those 2 games, doesn't he?
In those 2 games, he's the best fantasy player ever. The rest of them, 2 catches, 3 yards.
Kate Otten played his ass off in that final game, man. I'm looking at him. I'm like, I was thinking about you. I was like, you won't. If the Bucs had 5 more games, he might not have 5 catches. But this is that Kate Otten game where, and I like Kate Otten. I mean, I think he's a good, probably 2 tight end, but
yes.
I can't trust the offense. I mean, I can't trust Josh Gazard. In the last 4 weeks of the season, they had all 4 wide receivers, and everybody was telling me how dynamic this offense was going to be. They had 4 touchdowns. 4 in the last 4 weeks. 2 from Godwin, 2 from Evans. None from Ibuka, none from Jalen McMillan. They averaged, I think, 170 yards. You can't win like that. I mean, I just Josh Gazard is another guy that I think he needs to be culpable because he had no idea what he was doing. He was, I think, when he started to try to run the ball 30 times and people started talking about it, he was like, my bad. Like he just had no consistency, and we've been saying this for months. No identity with this team. No identity with this offense. You got to be nasty on defense. You got to have some semblance of an identity on offense. Does Josh Gazard come back next year? I feel like even if Bowles stays, if people want to make a lot of excuses, I think it might be harder to find a reason to bring Josh Gazard back in some instances than Todd Bowles.
I think if Bowles comes back, Gazard comes back. And that doesn't make any goddamn sense to change the offensive coordinator. No, seriously. It doesn't make any, like, Baker, give me a break, brother. Just give me 1 year. I don't have to freaking learn this thing new again. And, Igbuka at the beginning of the year, and I hope everybody learns from this, okay? And they won't. I know they won't. People had that son bitch in the Hall of Fame.
Living in the Hall of Fame.
In the Hall of Fame. And that son bitch caught about 6 balls in the last 6 games. Hey, invisible. What happens in your rookie year, sometimes you hit about that 13th week and you go, whoa, boom, what is going on? And, next year, and I said this, on In the Trenches, if you talk about going into next year, as we speak right now, if I had to pick in the NFC South, I might pick Bucs last. And that's not good. You think about it now. Think about it. We got the Saints that got a quarterback. We got Carolina that's on the come up. The Bucs have the same record, but they're not on the come up, okay? Okay, and Atlanta, if the right mastermind gets his hands on some of that talent in Atlanta, that could be something too.
They won their last 4 games.
That's what I'm saying.
And if they lost to the Jets, and if they would have beat the Jets in that game, God. I think I read this right last night. If the Falcons beat the Jets in that game, the Falcons would be the NFC South champions, and the Jets would have the number 1 pick.
Really?
Yeah, but instead, the Jets have the second pick, and the Falcons are out.
Yeah, here's the one thing, though. You lost to the Jets.
I know. I think that was it. I think that was that was the big news coming out last night. We just saw, we've already seen Jonathan Gannon getting fired from the Arizona Cardinals. I'm surprised he lasts the whole season.
I never heard that name before. I've never heard that name before.
Jonathan Gannon? That was the guy, Kyler Murray. I think I tell you what, he probably didn't get fired earlier because Jacoby Brissett balled out that at the end of the season. He did everything he could. He actually had some better numbers than Baker down the stretch, to be honest, which was kind of scary.
Your boy Kyler Murray's Coach Killer.
Coach Killer. He's out of there. You might see him playing for the Jets next year.
You never know.
Kevin Stefanski gets let go by the Browns, but then you look at the Falcons, Beck, getting rid of Terry Fontenot, the general manager, getting rid of Raheem, 2 8-9 seasons. Arthur Blank at 83 years young. He ain't getting any younger. He's looking at it as, I have all this talent. I need to change it all. I need to make sure they're bringing in Matt Ryan. He's going to try to help out there like Chris Spielman does in Detroit. I don't know how the Glazers look at this Buccaneers team and think, like, honestly, and that's why it's good that you and I have this conversation, is because you and me are not those just fire the guy. We understand the ramifications of this and why the Glazers are not just, and whether you like them or you don't, and it's ironic because Manchester United just fired their manager this morning, Ruben Amorim. The Glazers are very patient. They're very patient. It's a methodical process, but they'll make tough decisions, like getting rid of Tony Dungy, moving on from John Gruden. Do they have to make a move, though, Beck? It's just weird because it just seems like it's the definition of insanity going into next year. Even if you're optimistic, even if there's a bunch of reasons and excuses that you can make for why it didn't work this year. You just said it. This is not a team that's on the come up. This is a team right now that's treading water. And if you think that this is the leadership group that's going to take you to the next level, I don't know if fans are going to be jumping for joy going into 2026 if that's the case.
Well, I mean, if you ask me if they have to, the answer is no, because it's their entity and they can do what they want. Now, as a Buccaneer fan, I think the majority of the Buccaneer fans would not be elated to know that Todd Bowles is going to retain his job. Okay, that's because I'm sitting here listening. I would say this with Buccaneer fans: if you do change from Todd Bowles, get ready for to go down. Okay, because whoever comes in here is going to have a different system. Likes to bring in his guys, You know, when people talk about turnover, everybody thinks you just turn the whole locker room over. There won't be more than 25% change in the locker room. It just can't, because...
And change doesn't always mean better either.
Exactly. And you always hear coaches take a year or two to get their players in. So it's going to take a couple of years, you know, for whoever the new person is to come in and get all his players acclimated. So there's going to be a down period. Now, looking at the way we're going to go forward, if Todd Bowles stays, I'm not sure there's not going to be a down period anyways. I just think, because what's the thing, the part that we're not talking about is winning a lot of times brings on just rough times, okay? And winning is cyclical. And a lot of times teams win Super Bowls, and right afterwards, they usually have to plummet a little bit. The Bucs didn't really plummet.
No.
And maybe this is a time where they got to take a little step back before they come back up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of reload on the fly like they did, and dealing with all that, you know, dead cap money with Tom Brady, they were able to do that and kind of stem the tide a little bit. And you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, too. You win those back-to-back cups. You have a couple of first-round exits. Now they're leading the Eastern Conference. So maybe you don't have to go all the way down, but it just seems like the Bucs need to reload in some form or fashion. It's tough. What do you expect? And I'm going to go up there at 3:30 today in about 2.5 hours. What do you expect to hear from Todd Bowles today? Is there anything that – I don't know if there's anything that he could say to make the fan base feel better today. I mean, he's going to have to answer a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of them, not letting go of his special teams coach, Thomas McGahee, who was terrible for the Giants. He was terrible this year. And, you know, the McVay doesn't get rid of coaches. He got rid of his special teams coach a couple of games ago. And they had Verse blocked that kick and brought it to the house. So, what do you think Bowles is going to say today? I don't know if he's going to give us much.
Well, I don't think there's anything he can say, to be honest with you, to make it look good or bad, or just the season's over. If you remember, this was what led to Tony Dungy's demise was, you know, being loyal to his coaches. So Todd Bowles could be that guy. And like I said out in the trenches, people can say fire him, but maybe Todd Bowles wants to leave, because you could be dead man walking all year, and when you're dead man walking, that ain't never good, okay? And if they want him to be the coach next year, and say they tell him to fire a couple people, who do you get to bring in? You know, so a lot of this has to do with the relationship that Todd Bowles has with the Glazers. We have no idea what that is. I did hear the Glazers say we don't want to fire Todd Bowles. Right. That doesn't mean they're not going to do it. That just means they don't want to fire him. Okay?
They didn't want to fire Tony Dungy either.
Exactly. So
but they had to do it.
Yeah, but they're businessmen, and they're pretty darn good business people, and they're going to do what's best for their product. So that's why whatever they do, I'm on their side, because I promise you they're going over everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Beck, what's going on at the Dignitary Cafe, my friend?
Just sipping on some coffee and kratom, and we got karaoke coming up Friday with our girl Thancia.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, we're just doing our everyday chores here.
Nice. Make sure you check out the In the Trenches podcast, the Ian Beckles Show on Instagram, on the YouTube channel as well. We have Beckles and Recher coming up on Wednesday. I'm actually going to be by the cafe. I'll stop by at 5:30 today. I'll stop by for a little bit, so I'll see you a little bit later on. But yeah, Beckles and Recher on Wednesday at Ian Beckles Show. You still playing games or what?
Yeah, me and Chris played a couple of days. He beat me. I'm not happy. I need some revenge. Revenge.
The great Ian Beckles, Canadian Bacon. You're the best, brother. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
All right, brother. Peace.
One love to the one and only, number 62 in your program, number one in your heart, Ian Beckles. All right. Let's, real quick, before we get into Yaya Diaby. Yaya Diaby. I got something for him. Real quick, a big thank you to our sponsors, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, for all your residential and commercial needs. Again, my guy Hammer's the man, 813-244-0956, thehonesthammer.com, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Give him a shout. Bathroom renovations, kitchen renovations, they can help you out. These are the kind of people that you want to support, a local business. He's a Team Tampa Bay guy, a USF grad. He was there in the rain watching that Buccaneers game. Love him. Hammer's the guy. He's the man. So we really, really appreciate you. Honest Hammer on with us for 2026. You are the man. Thank you, Hammer. Check them out. Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC. And then, of course, EverHealth, our EverHealth Injury Report every Thursday at 12:30 with our pal, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. 17 different locations in Pinellas County. This is the new age of healthcare. From the cradle to the grave, they do a little bit of everything. They take any kind of insurance, sliding scale for the uninsured. These are just great people. You understand, these are the companies that we're working with. We got 2 more companies that are going to be joining us here in the next couple of weeks. These guys, they're just the best. They really are. You want to support local EverHealth, Honest Hammer. That is the way to go right here on the Jay Recher Podcast. Follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Okay. Again, another thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that you're not going to hear from anywhere else, and that is Yaya Diaby. All right. So, on February 11th, 2025, Bucs pass rusher Yaya Diaby tweeted, "I can't wait to prove all the doubters wrong. Trust and believe I am an elite pass rusher. FYI, watch film." Well, young man, I can confidently say on January 5th, 2026, you are not an elite pass rusher. You didn't prove any doubters wrong. And there is now 3 years of film, 7 sacks this year, good for 29th in the NFL. 50 tackles, which was 4 less than last year, and 1 forced fumble that came in that atrocity of a loss to the Lions on Monday Night Football up there in Detroit. Yaya is a great dude, and you can't question his effort. He gives it his all, and you can tell. He did have 13 tackles for losses. I'm going to give him that. Tied for 10th in the league. And he was available, played in all 17 games for the 3rd year in a row. But this year was supposed to be different. Year 3, coming into his own, a leader on the defense, playing opposite of a guy like Hassan Reddick, who's been there and done that. And we literally got pretty much the same guy we saw in 2024. A solid, not spectacular pass rusher on a team begging for some electricity on the outside. I don't want to hear anything about pressures or any other advanced statistic that tells me how good of a football player he is. If you're tweeting out that you are elite and you can't even get 8 sacks for the 3rd year in a row, I don't want to hear it. This is the age of social media, sure, but elite players do their talking on the field as much as they do off of it. A lack of progression from Yaya Diaby is another reason why this team has not taken a step forward. This team needs a better pass rush. And you want to blame the coach? Fine. But the players have to wear it too. Nobody's talking about this kind of stuff. Nobody. The same thing over and over and over and over ago. Over and over and over. Over and over and over and over. I'm sick of the redundancy. Shout out to our super chats. Jay Gatto. Chan doubling up. Appreciate you. Syrian Knight. Did take years for the Jaguars to start winning with a new coach. Come on in. Yeah, I know that's the other thing too. But that's the exception, not the rule, right? You can't look at the best situations, right? Jay, we had too many injuries to just blame Todd. Really? Vita played 17 games. Antoine Winfield Jr. played 17 games. Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield Jr., Levante David, and Yaya Diaby. Your 4 arguably best players on your defense all played 17 games. Come on. And I know, talking about like, oh, T-Crash says the practice. I don't agree with that. You got to keep these guys healthy. You know who else doesn't practice? You know who else doesn't make practice? A lot of teams. A lot of teams don't practice at the end of the year. Jason Pierre-Paul, the year they won the Super Bowl, didn't barely practice at all. Neither did Gronk. Players need to make plays. Coaches need to coach. Now, I want to tell you guys this. One of the biggest problems with teams that win championships is that they so desperately try to hold on to those glory days. Like the 24-year-old bartender who's still bragging to his friends how he was the varsity quarterback in high school, dating the head cheerleader. Every year, every single team, no matter what the sport, has a different identity. And the longer you take to identify it, the harder it is to be consistent and competitive. We had this conversation about Dave Canales a couple of years ago. Week 18, he's like, I don't really know what the identity of the team is. Really? Did Josh Gazard know what the offense's identity was this year? Can anybody tell me what the identity of the defense was this year? That's why they're home. That's why they're not playing in the playoffs. The Bucs did a heck of a job dealing with all that dead cap money left by Tom Brady and transitioning from Bruce Arians to Todd Bowles, but it seems like this team needs a fresh coat of paint, doesn't it? After watching the Raise the Flags documentary last month, you come to realize that no one coaches forever and no one plays forever. This team has moved on from the Doug Williamses, the Tony Dungys, the John Grudens and Warren Sapps of the world. It seems like some of those decisions, willingly and unwillingly, willingly or unwillingly, will have to be made here soon. You know, I've watched the Glazers, and I just made a mention of this. I've watched the Glazers operate for many years now, here with the Buccaneers and with my beloved and incredibly frustrating Manchester United. There are a lot of chefs at the table here. This family does not make rash decisions, and you can tell they go through a thorough process when a change is needed to be made, even if it is a difficult one. The injuries could play a part in their decision whether or not to retain Todd Bowles, as could the lack of defensive firepower brought in by Jason Licht. One thing we've learned is that while sentiment may play a part, it won't be the ultimate deciding factor. Again, I've said this so many times, and I can't stress to you guys enough how damning it is that the team had to bring in Jason Pierre-Paul off his couch to give this team energy and juice. That is very telling. And the signs aren't good. Whether it's the players themselves, the coaches who coached them, or the GM who brought them in. There is plenty of blame to go around. Everyone is culpable in here. Changes need to be made. Because if they're not, you just heard Ian say it, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. This is a very important couple of weeks and months for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I understand what Ian is saying, how just because there is a change, it doesn't mean that things are automatically going to get better. I get that. But it's hard to tell that to people when they just watch what Mike Vrabel did to Gerard Mayo's team in New England. When they just looked up and saw what Liam Cohen was able to do in Jacksonville. When you just saw what Ben Johnson was able to bring to Chicago. Talking about three, not just playoff teams and playoff coaches. Talking about three division winners. You look at what Mike McDonald's been able to do in Seattle. Things can change quickly, and there is talent here, and that's the scary part to me, is when there's people out there telling me that the Bucs defense doesn't have enough players on it. And you have guys like Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield Jr., Yaya Diaby. Like you have these guys that everybody keeps telling, Yaya Diaby is going to be a 10-sack guy this year. That's what everybody kept saying. He said it himself. Elite pass rusher. Really? Tyke Smith, I think he had a decent year. I mean, let's go all the positions. Let's go through each guy. Start on the offense. Tristan Wirfs, did he have his best year? I don't think so. He wasn't 100% dealing with turf toe. I give him a lot of credit. He was definitely dealing with that injury. I saw him limping the whole time. Still one of the best left tackles in football. Bredesen, Mauk, the injuries killed this Buccaneers team. And I know that Ian doesn't want to put that on Jason Licht, but I will. He had to do a better job of fortifying the back end. Just so guy, listen, There's teams out there with second and third string offensive linemen that at least hold the fort down. If I would have told you that you're going to miss 2 guys on the offensive line this year, the 2 guys you're telling me is Ben Bredesen and Cody Mauch. If I said, hey, for the majority of the games down the stretch, you're going to have Tristan, Graham Barton, and Luke Gedeke, would you be all right with that? I think a lot of people would. A lot of people would. Baker Mayfield, we spoke about him. He needs to be better. The running back position. Bucky's got to get better. He's got to get better. And I think there is a cause of concern when it comes to Bucky Irving going forward. Last year, it was physically. And I told you guys, remember one of the things before the season, everybody says I was crazy. Be careful saying trade Rachaad White. Because when you look at Bucky Irving, he didn't even start last year and had 3 different kinds of injuries. Then he was banged up again this year with 2 different kinds of injuries. And then he missed that last game because he had trouble mentally dealing with the prospect of being injured. I'm not hating on the guy for mental I don't say mental instability when it comes to that type of thing. I'm not throwing shade because of a possible mental health issue. Never going to do that. But I mean, it is a cause of concern. It is a cause of concern that you can't rely on a guy like that because physically and mentally he's not able to handle RB1. Rachaad, for all of his things that he doesn't do so well, he's pretty available. I thought he played pretty good down the stretch. And with that being said, he's gone. He's not coming back. I've been telling you guys this for months. There's no way he's coming back. Don't be surprised if he goes to Washington and plays with his pal Jaden Daniels. I don't like that when I'm standing there in the tunnel, Rachaad and Bucky are the first 2 guys off the field. They can't get off the field quick enough. They cannot leave that stadium fast enough. You don't even talk to those guys after the game. What is that about? Sean Tucker, serviceable back. He ended up being the goal line guy. Again, I think the lack of experience with Josh Gazard killed those guys. And I'm interested to see what the running back position is going forward. I think they should probably draft a guy in the middle rounds because Rashaad's gone. But I don't know. Why did they leave so quickly? Rachaad used to not do that. But those guys leave the field quickly so they can get out of the locker room quickly so that they don't have to talk to us, which I think is kind of bullshit. Sean Jackson used to do that. It is what it is. Sometimes he would stay when he had a good game. Well, when things started going sideways with Rachaad and Bucky started getting more shine, that's when you started seeing Rachaad become more detached. Let's not forget, Rachaad going into last year was doing the media tours. He was going to the radio stations. He was trying to put himself out there on the map. He was doing camps. He was doing all these different things. And then Bucky started playing good, and then that was it. Rachaad took a huge step back. He became the third wheel in the relationship between the fans and Bucky Irving. And don't tell me about Breece Hall. I don't want to hear about Breece Hall. Not going out there and spending with all the things that this team doesn't do well. All the things that this team doesn't do well. Are we really talking about bringing in a free agent running back on big money? Come on. This team just had 3 running backs that they drafted, all 3 of them. That ain't happening. Come on. That ain't going to happen. Kate Otten, we just had this conversation with Ian. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get. He's a guy that every single year you're going to get 3 or 4 good games where he looks like a legit tight end. And then other times he's just not going to be a part of the passing game at all. A reliable guy, but he kind of is what he is at this point. Are you talking Glazers today? Yeah, I already talked about the Glazers. I mean, what more is there really to say? I don't put this on the way that the Glazers have dealt with the Bucs and the way that they've dealt with Manchester United, 2 completely different things. Again, the Glazers, I doubt they had any influence on what happened today with Ruben Amorim getting fired over there in Manchester, and Darren Fletcher looks like he's going to be appointed as the caretaker manager. It's a wait and see. It's a wait and see. When it comes to, excuse me, the Glazers and Todd Bowles. All these guys are losing their jobs. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, there's talks about those guys both losing their jobs or leaving and moving on. I would take either one of those guys. The Bucs just need something new. They need a breath of fresh air. They need something, man. It's the same old rigmarole. I don't have any confidence that there's going to be any type of life for this team if they run it back again. They need a new voice. And Scotty Bowman, the Hall of Fame hockey coach, would talk about how you have to know when it's time to move on. You have to know when your message is getting tuned out a little bit and when you have to go somewhere else. And when you look at him, he was St. Louis and Pittsburgh and Detroit and Montreal. Like, he was all over the place. And Julius, I know what you're saying. I'm saying going into yesterday, people were talking about the futures of Tomlin and Harbaugh. I know Tomlin's in the playoffs. He's blowing kisses at the camera. But something's got to change with the Bucs. Can John Cooper coach the Bucs as a side project? I actually asked one of the Lightning guys today if John Cooper can coach. If John Cooper can coach Manchester United, we need the help. Please do what you can. I thought Jace McLaughlin started slow and did really good at the end of the year. I think Thomas McGahee still having a job is mind. There's no way he's the special teams coach here next year. No way. He was terrible with the Giants. Like, this is the crazy thing about the NFL, man. It's this, good old boy network is what they call it. And it's just like you hire your friends, and you look at Pittsburgh last night, and yeah, they won that game. And you look at Arthur Smith, excuse me. You look at Arthur Smith and you're like, this was the former Falcons coach, didn't know what the hell was going on. Rodgers looks like he doesn't even like the guy. It's just like, well, why the hell does he have a job? I don't get that, man. And you can say, all right, well, it's the difference between a head coach and a coordinator. I get that, but oh man. I don't know, man. The same guys recycled through the National Football League. I don't understand. Defensively, Logan Hall is what he is. I thought Hassan Reddick stole money from the Buccaneers this year. I think Servassier Dennis is another guy that completely was either mischaracterized or just not a good enough football player. We heard so many different people out there tell us that the reason why they couldn't cover anybody last year was because of the injuries and because of Servassier Dennis. Well, he played a lot this year and he couldn't cover anything. I don't understand. I don't quite understand. And that's one thing you don't want to hear from your team is your coach saying, well, we did all we could. Did you? If you did and the team's not performing at a high level, you got to find somebody else. And if you're blaming about injuries, I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't want to hear that shit. I said this a couple weeks ago to somebody. When Todd Bowles is sitting there in the press conference, and I'm there, and Todd Bowles is like, we're doing everything we can. The coaches have done everything they can. The players just have to execute. In essence, what he's saying is it's them, not me. I don't want that. I don't want a coach like that. Because at the end of the day, it's you. It's your team. I have this argument, a lot with myself coaching, and I know it's coaching kids, so it's a little bit different. And people would say, oh, they don't listen. Well, you know what? You're the coach. You're the coach. You're supposed to be a master motivator, a master communicator. You have to be pliable. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to take you have to take a shit sandwich sometimes and be able to kind of spin it, turn it, and throw it out and not have to digest it. You got to do something. And Todd didn't do that. Todd blamed the players. That's not being a leader, man. And the coaches aren't going to say anything because it's not like they played well. It's not like he's not telling the truth. Again, it's about more. It's like when people say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But I think there's deeper meanings to what people say sometimes. You're telling me that it's not you, it's the players. Those are your players, Todd. This is your defense. It's up to you to adjust. That's how I look at it as a coach, and I'm not even close to on the same level. A kid's not listening. How do I change my message so that he understands what I'm talking about? Instead of teaching in, what does my dad say? My dad always say, be proactive, not reactive. Instead of yelling at a guy, maybe encourage him a little bit more. Instead of encouraging a certain guy, maybe you get on his ass a little bit more. Maybe instead of telling a guy what he should be doing, maybe you should show him on tape. Maybe there's different ways for guys to learn. You have to be open to that. You can't just say, well, this is how it worked when I played. This is how it worked when everything was firing on all cylinders and everybody knew their job. Nobody was doing their job. And ultimately, it's going to cost somebody their job. And that guy is probably Todd Bowles. It's weird, man. It's weird how this season went. It's weird that there's just so many people to blame. All of these guys out there. And you look at the defense, and Todd Bowles is a secondary guy. Has Zion McCollum gotten better? Has Jamel Dean gotten better this year? He had a couple of picks. He's another guy that's injured all the time. Benjamin Morrison. Jacob Parrish had a couple of nice plays, but he also got burned on Saturday as well. Todd's a secondary guy. What was Nick Saban? Nick Saban, fantastic head coach. But there's always like, hey, I took his secondary guys, it was like everything to him. And then you had the Minka Fitzpatricks and the Marlon Humphreys and all these different guys that ended up playing on Sundays. Bulls, you're a secondary guy. You're a defensive guy. How many Pro Bowlers in the secondary have the Buccaneers had under Todd Bowles' watch? Can anybody tell me? One. Antoine Winfield Jr. Not Ty Key. Not Isian. Not Sean Murphy-Bunting. Not Carlton Davis. Not Jamel Dean. Not Zion McCollum. Not Jacob Parrish. Not Benjamin Morrison. Not Kendall Vildor. Not Josh Hayes. Not Merriweather. Not any of those guys. None of them. None of those guys. What does that tell you? That's supposed to be your strength. And I say this all the time. If I am a guy that, like, I'm a baseball coach, and if I'm a guy that says my team is base running, small ball, making the simple plays, and I go out there and my team is kicking the ball around the ballpark, we get picked off all the time, we don't play good defense, what kind of coach am I? What does that say about me? You're a defensive mastermind. You're a genius. And that's the way your defense plays? Not good, man. Not good at all. All right, I want to open it up to you guys. If you guys want to join in on the conversation, there is the link right in the chat. StreamYard.com/VH9A22CTGH. Just click on the link, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on your phone or whether you're on your laptop. If you want to join in on the conversation, now is the time to do it. Click on the link. Let me hear it. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Postmortem. Let me know what you think about this team and where the hell it went wrong. Let's see. And shout out to, again, Eddie and Chan with the super chats. Thank you guys so much. That's how we're going to keep this thing going. The super chats and also our partners at Honest Hammer and Ever Health, Syria Night. And then look at Louie in the house too with the Frozen Pirates podcast. Thank you guys so very much. Again, StreamYard.com/VH9822CTGH. Get in here if you guys want to join in on the conversation. Ah, man, this is just it's a crazy day, man. And in a weird way, like if this game or this team would have made the playoffs, this would have been a weird show today. Because how optimistic are you going to go into the playoffs after the way that you just played? Not much, not very. I didn't have any faith in these guys. Did you? Jamel Dean spoke earlier today over at One Buck. He said, you have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes people understand the game plan going in during practice, but when the bullets start flying, you realize you weren't as prepared as you thought you were. Once again, you have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes people understand the game plan going in during practice, but when the bullets start flying, you realize you weren't as prepared as you thought you were. That's on everybody. Everybody. Players, get it together. Coach, why isn't your game plan a type of game plan that is easily ingested by your team so that they can perform on Sunday? If your defense is to the point where that only certain types of players can do it, it's not good enough. You should make sure that you can adjust to your players rather than your players having to adjust to you. That's what your job is as a coach. It's just silly. It's silly to be able to think about things like that. But it is, I mean, that's real talk. That's coming from one of the guys. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Yaya Diaby. Yaya Diaby's ready to take that next step in terms of a leadership position. I don't want to hear what Yaya Diaby is talking to have to say about, his next step. I don't care. Why? It's just so strange. You look at some of these different things, I'm watching like some of the that's why I didn't make it like a priority to be there today. Nothing that these guys say really matters. Nothing. There's so many guys that have underperformed. So many coaches that have underperformed. This is a much more drastic disappointment than what we saw with Atlanta. Atlanta got into a situation where you won your last 4 games. They showed fight down the stretch. They lost Michael Penix Jr. They showed that they were kind of battling for a guy like Michael, for Raheem Morris. And, Raheem is probably going to get another job somewhere. I don't know if he's the greatest coach, but at least you saw some fight from that damn team. The lack of organization, the lack of grit, the lack of energy, the lack of juice. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. This is on the coaches. This is on the players. This is on the general manager. This is on everybody. And when you have that many problems, when you have that many things that you can point to with what is wrong with the team, why in the blue hell would you want to run it back? Why? And I don't want anybody from yesteryear. Y'all got to stop living in the past. I don't want Gruden. I don't want Dungy. I don't want Raheem. You got to look forward, man. Forward. New age. Gruden was terrible at the end of his tenure here. Gruden was not good with the Raiders. Gruden is everybody loves Gruden now because he goes on Barstool and it's like he was on TV. Let's just face it. Gruden's not the guy that you want steering the ship when you're in shaky waters. We heard one of his biggest supporters, Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report, tell us that. I don't want Raheem Morris. They lost to the Jets this year. They did good down the stretch, but outside of the Rams, which one of those teams was really that good? Not that many. Give me somebody young. Give me somebody with an offensive background, defensive background, whatever. Give me something. Give me I would love Kevin O'Connell. Maybe trade with the Vikings. I wouldn't hate Kevin Stefanski. He's got the experience working with Baker. Give me something. And G-Dubs, you're not wrong. We almost lost to the Jets. You're right. This team's got to move forward. This team has got to get better. This is just not good enough. Where are the standards for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Where are they? Where are the standards? This is where they're at. Can anybody tell me? You know what happens when you don't establish an identity? You don't have standards. And if you guys want to chime in, StreamYard.com/VH9A22CTGH, whether you're on your phone or on your laptop, we'll stay on for about another 5 or 10 more minutes. Where are the standards with this team? Where are they? And I know it's easy to say, well, just bring in the hot shot coordinator in here. You need a good leader of men, too. Stefanski's going to be an interesting one if he gets another gig, because I think he's done a good job. I don't know if anybody is going to be able to do well with how everything is set up there in Cleveland. But from what is going on with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, changes need to be made. Not good enough. Let's go to Harold. Harold, what do you got for us, buddy? Harold?
Jay, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot. Just calling in, bro. I really appreciate your show, and I like your honesty. But I think maybe you may be missing out on a little bit of. In one moment you say, I'm sorry. Let me turn this off.
Yeah, turn it.
And one moment you say Kevin Stefanski or the guy from the Rams. Wouldn't they be just recycled coaches?
Yeah. I mean, you could say that, no doubt. I'm just looking for somebody on the other side of the ball, somebody that I wouldn't put my flag in the ground like Kevin Stefanski is going to be my guy. But I kind of say that in the vein of he's worked with Baker Mayfield in the past, and I think he's done some good things offensively there. So if they went in that direction, but if you asked me, if you held my feet to the fire and say is he the best guy, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't plant my flag with Kevin Stefanski. I'm just throwing out a couple of different names that people might be interested in.
Okay, and I just one more.
Yeah, no problem. Take your time.
I get that the coaching staff. I'm sorry that the coaching staff wasn't what it needed to be, and I also agree that Todd Bowles holds on to his coaches when they are too long, when they're not up to snuff. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I think that the context is missing from this whole situation. I think that sometimes what people don't realize is that he guided this team through salary cap purgatory. And I think if you compared the teams that were in his situation when he took over and compare that with the rest of the league, I think that you would find that he's done an admirable job. Maybe not great, mm-hmm. but he has kept the team above water, and he has kept them. And there's plenty of blame to go around. Right, but I think that sometimes that the context is missed when explaining these things. And I know you're very knowledgeable. Actually, you're really only one of the few guys that I really like.
Thank you, buddy. And I'm glad that that's true. Real quick, Harold, don't leave. And that's the reason why, Harold. And I'm glad that you presented it like that. That's why I was one of the few guys that was supporting him going into the season, because I thought the context was key. I thought that thinking just, oh wow, Liam Cohen, we didn't know Liam Cohen was going to do the job that he did there in Jacksonville. Correct. I mean, if I would have told you that Travis Hunter was going to play as infrequently as he did this year, and that the Jags would win the AFC South, people would be like, you're freaking crazy. And I thought that Todd Bowles being a leader with this team and how even though they went through all of those midseason swoons, that nobody jumped ship. And to his credit, they didn't do it again this year. Nobody was talking shit. Nobody was saying that Todd Bowles, like you heard it with Levante David after the final game, like he loves that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Tristan Wirfs said it today. He loves that guy. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to point out what you said there, Harold. He did a good job. I don't want to say that he did a bad job, but you want great. This team was looking to progress, to go forward, to make a long run into the postseason, and they didn't even make the playoffs. And when you look at his record at the end of the day, it's hovering right around 500. And I think with a team, you want to see progress. You want to see a team getting better. So at the end of the day, the context ends up coming down to wins and losses. And there's not going to be many people going forward that are going to be super excited if Todd Bowles is going to be the guy at the helm.
I agree with that. I still think that overall there is the big picture, and I think that and what you said is I think is spot on in a lot of things. But Jay, I just still have a problem with just the adversities that that this team faced this season. We realized that was a very old Tom Brady team. It's like he kept Tom Brady from going to the Super Bowl. He made a call. The player missed the coverage. Now, if we had Ed Reed back there or someone else back there when he made the call, maybe they make that play. I don't know, but we all have assignments and things that we have to do when it comes to our job. Sometimes the coach can call the right play, but I hear it all the time. It's about players and not plays. And I just don't believe that Todd Bowles is one of the most respected defensive minds in the league. One of the most respected. You hear all the time. And I refuse to believe that this guy all of a sudden forgot how to coach defense. And I'll let you go, and thank you for everything you do. And I'll continue to support you and listen to you.
You're the man. Harold, thank you so much. Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas to you and yours. Yeah, and I like that. I like that Harold brings that to the table, because when you think about it, guys, like the majority of people today, and I'm in that group, is going to talk about the Buccaneers need to move on. And he's the guy that needs to answer for all this. And I'm glad that Harold can come in and kind of give us a little bit of a different viewpoint, because he's not wrong. He's not wrong in what he's saying. Like, it's not just Todd. And that's what I've been saying the last couple of weeks. And it's weird. You have these conversations with people, not Harold, but other people. And you hear that and people are like, well, it is Todd, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not Todd, but it's deeper than that. It's the players too. It's the general manager too. It's the quarterback too. This is so much deeper than it's just Todd Bowles. Is he the main culprit? Probably. But it is more than just him. But it is your job, if players continuously not make plays and your defense is not being digested and put out there and performed at a high level, it is up to you to change. You have to change your message. You have to change the way you convey it. You have to change the way the players execute it. You got to dumb it down. That is what greatness is. You want to talk about defensive mastermind and a genius, and I've heard that, and I heard Kirk Cousins talk about that during the quarterback documentary on Netflix. I love that. It was so cool. But if it's so complicated and you don't have the horses to operate and do that, if you continuously do that same thing, that's on you. That's on you. If you're telling your 10-year-old, jump higher, you can dunk on the 10-foot rim. Jump higher. Come on, jump higher. You're not, bro, you can't dunk. You can't do it. You got to be realistic in what's going on with your situation. And that lack of adjustment is part of the things that, and that's why I was in Todd's corner going forward before this season, because I said, guys, hold on. He didn't get rid of some coaches. He did bring in a guy to help him with clock management. He's not as stubborn as we all say he is. But then what happened this year? Back to some stubborn ways. Back to overly conservative Todd Bowles. I mean, the fact that they won that game was great. But, I mean, guys, let's be honest. 4th and 2 from the 48 of Carolina and you're punting? Like, I understand he's not a no risk it, no biscuit kind of guy, but like, what does that tell you? I mean, look at Pittsburgh last night. Last play of the first half, they get stuffed. Baltimore goes into halftime with the lead. Tomlin gets interviewed right before he goes in the locker room. What does he say? Not a hard decision at all. This is a win or go home mentality. Mike Tomlin's a defensive guy. He understands what it takes. But he understood, hey, we got to leave it all out there. And I think too many times, Todd's team doesn't have that same foot on the gas pedal, at least some semblance of a no risk it, no biscuit, like we saw with a guy like Bruce Arians. And defensively, just too many mistakes. And ultimately, the guy that pays for that is defensive coordinator. And the defensive coordinator in that instance is Todd Bowles. All right, guys. That's going to wrap it up for me. I got to get going. I have to get ready because I'm actually heading over to One Buck in about an hour and so. Todd Bowles speaks at 3:30 today. So this is why you want to make sure that you follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. Come check me out. At Jay Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. This was probably one of our biggest shows ever. Show number 1 in season 2, the season premiere of the Jay Recher Podcast, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Postmortem. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so freaking much. You guys are the best. All right, tomorrow we will be live at Benchmark International Arena. Lightning Avalanche should be a good one. We'll talk to John Cooper. Yeah, it's good to be back in the saddle here. We'll have a brand new opening video as well. Really, really good stuff. And I don't even know like what kind of questions to ask Todd. Like I do, but you know, you look at it. What is there to ask Todd? Because kind of like I said with the players, what do you have to say? What's there to say? They did their talking on the field this year, and it wasn't good enough. A big thank you to Louie and Siri and Knight, Chan, Eddie, Eddie. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Bust Todd's balls, Jay. I'll do my best. All right. I love you all. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Spread positivity. Spread positivity on social media and in the world. Stefanski and Baker heard that won't work. Yeah, I know. So I'm saying if they brought him in, I don't know if it's such a great idea, but if they did, then that's part of the thing I'm sure that they're looking at. But give me something different. Give me a fresh coat of paint on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I love you all. See you tomorrow at noon. Live from Benchmark International Arena right here on the Jay